I don't honestly quite know how to recap this one. Flies in the Vomit, tier lists, punk rock is fake ass bullshit, and I'm Jim Dempsey. Stay tuned. All right, roll me.
Say my name.
Jam, but you just become best friends. Yup.
I love the poorly educated.
Shake my hand. Shake my hand. Put her there, pal. I diddly hey, neighborino. It is Jim Dempsey, a man who draws flies with his vomit, 7 at one blow. Can I just say, 7 at one spew. At last round, before I got around to getting it seen to, I looked at it and I was like, I didn't think that one was that tasty, personally, the second time around. But the flies seem to disagree. There's a fly floating around in our studio somewhere. Maybe you'll see him. And just saying. You know why I mentioned that? Because how often do you see dudes talking about death metal where you're like, that guy actually seems like he's like fucking death metal, and I'd be like, I'm just accidentally death metal. Like I didn't even think I was gonna be here in like this late in life, right? I always thought I was like some little poser ass kid just being like, well, I like heavy metal. What are you guys doing here? Like, ooh, wow, this is rough and tough shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ooh, oh wow, this is scary. Yeah. Over the years. So, does that give me some credence to call out some fucking posers? Well, judge for yourself. But what year is this anyways? 2026? Like that's decades in by now. So I'd be like, I kind of feel like I know what I'm doing. A little better than maybe some of these other punk asses. You know how I can tell? Because I see some of their videos and I'd be like, you know what I can just already know about this guy? This guy is a man who does not let a puddle of vomit linger long enough to draw 7 flies. Who is the most metal of them all? If I had a band, I'd be like vomiting on stage like a dude from Weed Eater. Or was that Buzz Oven? Yeah, the Dixie Dave guy, that guy. Where he's just like playing his bass and, you know. I always thought that I was like, I don't understand why more people don't do that. I always thought that was like the most metal fucking thing ever. Just, you know. Okay, here's a pro tip for anyone like on the off chance they even exist, the up and coming budding young musicians. That is, but really that's how you do anything, right? Like when you're doing something, take this from a public speaker. Here's the deal: is when you're doing a performance, right? If you're doing anything performance related, this is how you got to do it. Is if something happens, you just keep going, and if possible, incorporate it. Like make that part of the whole act. But you can't stop and start again when you're like performing, right? Like you gotta just keep going. So if you missed a measure, well, you're playing it in your head, right? Like keep going with it. Just, you know, because you gotta jump back on as soon as, and that's a performance tip. Just from Jim. Just some quick life advice. Because what are we doing here? Tell you what I'm doing here. I'm just talking shit. You know why? Because we could talk about death metal, black metal, the most underrated, the most underappreciated, the most overrated, the albums of shit talking that like you need to hear. But you know what? Other people talk that, and I'd be like, I got better things to talk about. I just wanted better people to talk about them with, is all. And this is good for your life. Can we talk a little more about the robot dog thing? Because feels like, yeah, nobody watched that. And I feel like they probably just assumed that you were just an insane person ranting. And I'm like, well, then you titled it correctly. We did not deceive anybody. But is that not something you might want to turn to in these insane times? Is like, be like, well, let's hear what the fucking nutcases are saying, because, you know. I mean, the thing is, everyone's talking shit, right? So when you're listening to the nutcases, that's the thing, is you gotta dig through a lot of the chaff. It's like underground metal. You can be like, oh, here's a new Immolation album, here's a new Darkthrone album, here's a new 6 Feet Under album. The new Darkthrone actually was better than I expected. I'll give them that. Like, it was actually better than I expected, and it looked dumber than I thought was excusable. I'll give them both of those things. I'd be like, god damn, fucking clown car circus, but Ted's bringing the riffs, and shit, good for them for that. But will I ever get back to it? Probably not. You want my Darkthrone take? This is not even a hot take. This is not a hot take, because enough people have already been saying this. But I've been saying this forever, since it was a hot take. Under a Funeral Moon. That's all you really need. That's the one. A Blaze in the Northern Sky was, you know, more consequential than the Mayhem album. But then the Mayhem Antics were more consequential than either of the albums. But it is fair to say that, you know, if you were drawing out a list of, like, these are the most consequential and important and iconic ones, then you would give, like, A Blaze as well as Under a Funeral Moon. But Under a Funeral Moon's, like, that's the good one. That's the fucking black metal one. And, yeah, after that, they're better than a lot of these bands. But how much time do I have in my life? I need to listen to every single fucking one. I've been doing it for, like, this year, and already I had to take a month off. You know what actually I did? I haven't listened to a whole lot of new metal albums, but I listened to a Filter album for almost no reason whatsoever. I barely remember what drew me out to it, but I was like, that's on my list of things. I wanted to follow up on something somebody said. Why would you just assume that anything anyone says? That's the thing. You can't just listen to anything anyone says, especially on the internet. You'll find yourself listening to a fucking Filter album. I got halfway through it and I was like, I'd need to be, like, driving an electric car across a Midwestern state while drinking an energy drink to really appreciate this album. And also I'd have to know a lot less about, like, music and art than I do. But in that circumstance, I could see it. I could be like, if I was a Walmart shopper, no offense to Walmart shoppers, but maybe you just need to, like, also live in a different place too. Like, suck it up and, yeah, that's all I'm saying. Is Jim Dempsey a city snob? Yes, I am. And what do I get for that? I end up living in a fucking town I literally do not even know the name of. What county are we in, Phil? Cowlitz? Adams? I don't even know what fucking county I'm in. But, I'm a snob about it. And, yeah, I gotta go on YouTube and talk about it, because I can't just go to my neighbors and be like, yeah, Phil, like, how the fuck do you live in a town that I don't even know the name of? Like, I've lived in a state my whole life, and I'm pretty sure I've never even heard the name of this city before. And I use the word city loosely. I'm just saying. But you know what? My vomit is now drawing flies. I feel like I'm leveling up in life. I'm stepping up the death metal game. We were going to do a ranking video. I was going to take this tier list thing here, and let's see if I can show you that there. We got there going. That guy, yeah. And I was going to pick a band and be like, let me throw them on the tier list. Can I just say about people's tier lists? A lot of those videos I find just intolerably glossy, because you get their tiers and they're like, this is a perfect album, this is a near perfect album, this is just a fantastic album, a merely amazing album, and a simply godlike album. And I'd be like, yeah, bro, 6 Feet Under isn't that good. Just saying. They are a punching bag, right? But that's the low-hanging fruit. I'm sorry, I was too easy. That new album, though, I was like, I'm a little bitter because I wanted something. I was like, where's the Graveyard Classics nonsense to just really piss me off and be like, what the fuck are you even doing? Did I give Barnes his flowers in the, I think it is. I was like, that guy is actually way more legit than any of us have been giving him credit for. And you know what's funny is only the newcomer kids that like listen to shit like 6 Feet Under actually do give him proper credit. So that's like a failing on all of our parts. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Jim Dempsey calls out the bullshit. And I actually, like, I look past all the bullshit and I'm like, oh yeah, that is all bullshit. Let me call that out. So yeah, we're gonna do it 2 days in a row here. I'm just doubling down on this point. Give Barnes his fucking flowers. Chris Barnes is legit, and also like a punchline. It's kind of impressive. I'd be like, the guy's been a fucking joke for 30 years running, at the same time as he's also been like the fucking icon of death metal for like the entire time running, pretty much. And that's like, you know, kind of ballsy. Good for him. Good for him. I'm enjoying this Chris Barnes redemption arc that perhaps I myself am initiating, but those of you who, like myself, have been doing this shit for like decades and long since wrote him off as like, you know what, we were fucking wrong, and I'm calling us all out on that. And I'm gonna say that the little kids, they're still stupid, right? But they'll learn. And they did get this one right, and we cannot give them a credit for that. You cannot give the kids anything. We must... First thing we must do is we must persecute them ruthlessly. We must lock the gates thoroughly, and any ones that scramble over, we have to beat them severely and toss them back over. And if they still get in, then they're cool. But that's how it is, right? Like, you gotta feel uncomfortable getting into a subculture. You gotta level up to what they're doing, right? You can't just walk in doing whatever the fuck you were doing and be like, this is what we do now, guys. Like, no, that's not how this shit works. That's the death of subculture. Does that mean that we can actually stop it? No. So what happens? Subcultures, they morph, and in important ways, like they kind of die, right? Can I tell you about punk rock? You think I have anything useful or relevant to say about punk? Well, I mean, this has all been said before anyways, but this is the kind of thing that bears doubling down on and repeating, just outside perspective from someone that honestly isn't that even into punk culture for the most part, but someone who appreciates some punk aesthetic in my death metal at any rate. But that whole punk sound thing, that's straight bullshit. That's death of subculture thing. Like, that's when you know it's no longer a movement and is now a fashion. And it happened very fast. Like, by the time you knew what it was. Because if you go back and, like, actually just study briefly actual history of, like, old generation punk, what are you going to get a lot of? You're not going to get a lot of Bad Religion and Black Flag. You're going to get Blondie and motherfucking The Pretenders and shit like that. Because Sex Pistols was like the one that got memed. So that everyone that didn't know anything about punk thought punk was Sex Pistols. But that was not what punk... That was like one shade of punk. And me personally, I spent the last like entire adult life being super underwhelmed and unimpressed by the likes of like the Ramones. Because I'd be like, that was supposed to be like that scary thing that everyone like feared in the 80s with the safety pins and shit. Like, I don't see it. So I could never take them like on their own value for that. If you listen to them like on their, you know, but even that is like kind of a stunted example. They Might Be Giants is punk. Like the bands that were out there doing their own random thing on, when they first coined the phrase alternative music, it was specifically talking about the bands in the order of Jane's Addiction and Red Hot Chili Peppers and Primus. Those were like three of the ones that first commanded the tag, in fact, and then like managed to maintain it through the time that it became it was no longer like an aesthetic, and then it was just a fashion and a sound and a style. And that's how subcultures go, right? So that's what the thing is with like death metal and black metal. I'd be like, bro, I see a lot of videos now. I've seen like Matt Walsh brought out a bunch of people that listened to underground music and wanted to like get clickbait videos being like, Matt Walsh said rock is dead and he's wrong and here's why and blah blah. And I'd be like, well, we all listen to underground music, so none of us are necessarily as objective judges of that sort of thing. Except, I mean, I have maybe more of an ear attuned to that world than a lot of these people that spend all their time doing this shit, right? So, with that outside perspective, I can just kind of walk by and be like, oh, by the way, we were all wrong about Chris Barnes, and Matt Walsh is right about rock music. because he's not into underground metal. So he's a really good representative sample for like the state of rock music on a broader cultural trend than those other people that, like myself, are like talking about underground metal, right? Like what the fuck do they know about what's going on in the Walmart world, right? Are they listening to Filter albums? Did we cover that in this take? I listened to a Filter album today. About a third of one, like not more than half of one, because I mean I do have shit to do, but something prompted me to do it, and I was just like, yeah. And I've been sick, so like clearly I'm not in my right fucking head, but yeah, it wasn't that bad. It just wasn't that good either. I mean, like halfway through I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm a grown man. Come on now. I'm a man with like less and less time as time goes by to spend doing this kind of nonsense. So I really should be more and more judicious about exactly what I'm doing with it. I would rather be looking at a camera and just babbling for like the benefit of maybe 2 or 3 people randomly happening across a video than I would listening to a Filter album. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, what did we cover here? Because we're past time now. Like, I've taken enough of your day, but I am Jim Dempsey. Thank you for joining us for this little TED Talk, this Jim Jam. We mentioned why we're all wrong about like death metal, and why other people are more wrong than I am about death metal. Like, it's fucking past tense. I've got some lessons that we'll still continue unpacking from the shorts, and I hope to continue doing the shorts if I can get off my ass, but Phil's not looking forward to it. He doesn't actually enjoy editing them that much. And, but at any rate, we're done here. Punk rock is bullshit. Most death metal YouTubers are bullshit. Chris Barnes is kind of bullshit, but also, like, more legit than anything else we've been discussing here today. And Dempsey dips. All right. Catch you next time.